My sister offered to carry our baby. Now she's refusing to give it back because she fell in love with it. I'm a 33-year-old woman, and this is the kind of story you think only happens in movies or trashy tabloids. But it's my life now, and it's tearing my family apart. My husband, Mark, and I struggled for years with infertility. After several failed IVF attempts, our doctor told us my body just couldn't carry a pregnancy safely. It was devastating. I felt like my body had betrayed me. Adoption was on the table, but then my younger sister, Hannah, made what seemed at the time like the most selfless offer in the world. She volunteered to be our surrogate. I cried when she told me. She said she wanted to give us the greatest gift and that she couldn't stand to see us in pain anymore. Mark and I discussed it for weeks, made sure she was really serious, and eventually agreed. We covered every medical expense, paid for a lawyer to draft the contract, and even moved Hannah into our guest room during the last trimester so she wouldn't have to stress about money or commuting. It was supposed to be the happiest chapter of our lives. And for a while, it was. Watching my sister carry our child was surreal. I felt so grateful, so indebted to her. I kept telling her, "You're going to make me a mom." But everything changed the moment she gave birth. When our baby girl, Ava, came into the world, I expected Hannah to hand her over with a smile, maybe even a tear. Instead, she held on. She clutched Ava against her chest, refusing to let go, sobbing that she couldn't do it. At first, I thought it was hormones, just the shock of delivery. But then she looked me in the eye and said words that still haunt me, "She feels like mine. I'm not sure I can give her back." That was 3 months ago. And Ava is still in Hannah's arms. The first hours after Ava's birth were a blur of emotions: joy, shock, fear, betrayal, all tangled together. I kept telling myself Hannah just needed time to process, that she'd eventually remember the agreement we made. But every time I reached for my daughter, Hannah pulled her closer, like I was some stranger trying to snatch a baby in a hospital corridor. Mark tried to step in, but he froze when Hannah started crying hysterically, begging the nurses not to take her baby away. The nurses looked confused, then cautious, and soon the room was filled with whispers and sideways glances. I wanted to scream, "That's my baby. Our embryo, our child, not hers." But Hannah's voice was louder, her sobs more convincing in that moment. By the time my parents arrived, the damage was done. Hannah was rocking Ava, refusing to let anyone else hold her. My mom rushed to her side, stroking her hair, saying how brave she was, how proud she felt of her. I waited for someone, anyone, to remind her this wasn't Hannah's baby. But instead, my mom gave me a look I'll never forget. It wasn't sympathy. It was suspicion. "She just gave birth," Mom said sharply. "She's bonded with the baby. You can't expect her to just hand her over like a handbag." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I reminded her of the contract, of the agreement, of the fact that Ava was genetically mine and Mark's. My mom just shook her head and muttered, "Contracts can't change feelings." My dad didn't say much, he just stood there, pale and quiet, as if siding with me would make him a traitor to Hannah in her vulnerable state. That night, the hospital let Hannah keep Ava in her room, against my protests. They cited maternal recovery and bonding time. Maternal. The word burned through me like acid. I wanted to rip it off the paperwork and scream until the walls caved in. When Hannah was discharged, my parents insisted she stay with them until things settled. Which meant Ava went with her. Which meant I went home with empty arms and a hollow chest, knowing my daughter was in someone else's nursery, hearing someone else's lullabies. Mark tried to be strong, but I could see the cracks in him. He sat in Ava's half-finished nursery at our house for hours, just staring at the crib, his hands gripping the rail as if he could will her back home. At night, I heard him crying into his pillow. Meanwhile, Hannah started sending me mixed messages. Some days she texted me pictures of Ava with captions like, "She's growing so fast, you'd be so proud." Other days, she ignored me completely. And once, when I demanded to see Ava in person, she lashed out, "Stop pressuring me. You don't understand what it's like to carry a baby inside you for 9 months. She's part of me. I can't just rip that away." I wanted to remind her that I understood what it was like to long for a baby for years, to inject myself with hormones, to spend nights praying in bathrooms after failed IVF attempts. But what was the point? She didn't care. She had rewritten the story in her head. She wasn't my sister helping me become a mom, she was a mother who had fallen in love with her baby. And the worst part? My family started enabling it. My mom told relatives that Hannah was conflicted and that we all needed to give her space. My dad avoided family dinners altogether to keep from choosing sides. And slowly, cousins, aunts, even family friends began to pull away from me, whispering behind my back that maybe I was being too harsh, too cold, too legalistic. It felt like I was being erased, not just as a mother, but as part of my family. 3 months have passed since Ava was born, and Hannah still hasn't given her back. The lawyer says I have a case, but court takes time, money, and the kind of emotional stamina I'm running out of. Meanwhile, Hannah posts pictures on social media, calling Ava my little angel, while I scroll with shaking hands, crying until my eyes burn. My sister was supposed to give me the greatest gift of my life. Instead, she stole it. I finally reached the point where I couldn't take it anymore. 3 months of waiting, begging, and walking on eggshells had drained every ounce of patience I had left. I hired a new lawyer, one who specialized in surrogacy disputes, and filed an emergency petition for custody. When Hannah was served the papers, she exploded. She called me screaming, accusing me of treating her like an incubator. She sobbed about how Ava needed her real mother and how I was just bitter because I couldn't carry a baby myself. Her words cut deep, but I refused to back down this time. That's when she escalated. Hannah started poisoning the entire family against me. She told my parents I was trying to steal her baby and that the contract was just a piece of paper. She told relatives I had forced her into the arrangement, that she had never truly wanted to be a surrogate but felt pressured by guilt. None of it was true, but she played the victim so well that people believed her. Soon, I was bombarded with calls and messages, my aunt saying I was heartless for dragging Hannah into court. My cousin accusing me of breaking up the family. Even my mom told me she was ashamed that I'd use lawyers against my own sister. Meanwhile, Hannah posted pictures online of Ava dressed in little onesies, captioned "Mommy's girl" and "my heart in human form." Each post was like a dagger to my chest. People commented things like "You're glowing, Hannah," and "You were meant to be a mom," and every single time, I wanted to scream, "She's not the MOM. I am." Mark and I attended the first court hearing, and I'll never forget the sight of Hannah walking in with Ava in her arms, flanked by my parents. My mom wouldn't even look at me. She went straight to Hannah, cooing over Ava like I didn't exist. The judge listened to both sides, but it was clear this wouldn't be resolved quickly. Hannah's lawyer argued maternal bonding and claimed removing Ava would traumatize her. My lawyer pushed back, showing proof of the surrogacy contract, genetic testing proving Ava was biologically mine and Mark's, and documentation of Hannah's agreement before and during the pregnancy. But legal truths don't erase emotional manipulation. Every time Hannah cried in court, every time she kissed Ava's forehead, I saw the judge hesitate. I realized this fight wouldn't just be about the law, it would be about who the court felt was the better mother. The stress started eating me alive. I lost weight, couldn't sleep, and Mark and I fought constantly. He wanted to go nuclear, public statements, press involvement, anything to force Hannah's hand. But I was terrified of making Ava the center of a public scandal. And then came the cruelest twist of all. One night, while scrolling social media, I saw a picture Hannah posted, Ava in a stroller, my mom pushing it, smiling proudly. Caption read, "3 generations of strong women." They had erased me completely. My own mother had chosen Hannah's delusion over my reality. And the child I had dreamed of for years, the baby who carried my DNA, was being paraded around as if I had never existed. I don't know what hurt more, losing Ava, or realizing I had already lost my sister and my family forever. The custody battle didn't just intensify, it consumed my entire life. Every waking hour revolved around depositions, affidavits, and strategies with my lawyer. I thought the truth, that Ava was biologically mine and Mark's, would be enough. But I quickly learned that truth and justice aren't the same thing. Hannah's lawyer painted a picture of a loving mother who had bonded deeply with her child. He used words like attachment, nurture, stability. He emphasized the trauma Ava might face if ripped away from the only mother she's ever known. My blood boiled every time. Ava wasn't even 6 months old, she wouldn't remember a thing. And yet, their entire case rested on emotions, not facts. But then, something unexpected happened. My lawyer uncovered medical records that Hannah's team hadn't intended to bring up. She had been prescribed antidepressants for postpartum depression and anxiety attacks. I didn't want to weaponize her struggles. Mental health isn't shameful, but the irony wasn't lost on me. The same sister claiming to be Ava's true mother was barely coping with the responsibilities of motherhood. In court, my lawyer carefully presented the records, not as an attack, but as evidence that Hannah wasn't emotionally stable enough to raise a child she had never intended to keep. Hannah burst into tears, accusing me of dragging her personal struggles through the mud. My parents glared at me like I had just stabbed their favorite daughter. But the judge listened. For the first time, I saw hesitation in his eyes when Hannah clutched Ava and cried. Maybe he realized that her maternal bond came with cracks. Outside the courtroom, things turned uglier. Hannah cornered me in the parking lot, Ava strapped to her chest. She leaned in so close I could feel her breath and whispered, "You think you're winning, but even if you get her back, she'll never love you the way she loves me." I nearly collapsed right there. The cruelty in her voice wasn't desperation anymore, it was possession. She didn't just want Ava. She wanted me to suffer, to feel like a stranger in my own daughter's life. Mark held me together that night, but I could see his patience fraying. "We should have never trusted her," he said bitterly. "She saw our pain and used it." He wasn't wrong. The guilt gnawed at me. I had brought Hannah into this, I had believed her promise, and now our lives were burning because of it. Then came the day everything exploded. During one of the supervised visits the court allowed me, Ava started crying in Hannah's arms. She wouldn't settle, no matter what Hannah did. When the social worker suggested letting me try, Hannah hesitated, then reluctantly handed her over. And then, like fate itself intervened, Ava stopped crying the second I held her. She nestled into my chest, her tiny fingers wrapping around mine, and fell asleep. The entire room went silent. Even Hannah's lawyer looked shaken. For the first time, it was clear, Ava knew me. Maybe not as a mother yet, but as something deeper, something that couldn't be erased. Hannah's face twisted with rage. She lunged forward, trying to snatch Ava back, shouting that I was confusing her. The social worker had to step between us, documenting every word. That incident went straight into the court file. It was a turning point. For months, Hannah had spun the narrative that she was Ava's only source of comfort, her real mom. But in that moment, the illusion cracked. And everyone saw it. Still, the damage was done. My family was fractured, my reputation shredded, and my sister, the same girl I once shared secrets with under the covers, had become my greatest enemy. And all because she fell in love with a child that was never hers to begin with. The weeks leading up to the final hearing were some of the darkest of my life. Every day felt like a countdown to judgment. Would I finally get my daughter back, or would the court hand her permanently to the woman who betrayed me? My lawyer prepared me for the worst. "The judge will look at Ava's best interests, not contracts or genetics alone," he warned. "You have to show not just that she's yours, but that removing her from Hannah won't harm her." It sounded insane to me. How could it be harmful for a child to live with her biological parents, the ones who planned for her, paid for her, dreamed of her? But the law doesn't run on logic. It runs on perception, and Hannah knew it. 2 nights before the hearing, she pulled her dirtiest trick yet. I was scrolling online when I saw a new post on her Facebook, a carefully staged photo of her cradling Ava, my mom standing beside her, captioned, "Family is what you feel in your heart, not what a piece of paper says." The comments made me sick. Dozens of people praised her as courageous, selfless, a true mother. Some even said they couldn't believe her sister was dragging her to court. The smear campaign was working. Hannah had turned herself into a martyr. But what broke me wasn't strangers, it was my mom. She liked the post. She even commented, "So proud of you both." Both. As if Hannah and Ava were the only family that mattered now. The morning of the hearing, I walked into court with Mark, my heart pounding so hard I thought I'd faint. Hannah was already there, dressed in pale blue, Ava in her arms, playing the role of the serene mother. My parents sat behind her, refusing to look at me. When it was my turn to speak, I didn't hold back. I told the judge about the years of infertility, the heartbreak of failed IVF, the way Hannah had offered to help when I was at my lowest. I described the contracts, the medical evidence, the truth of Ava's DNA. But more than that, I told him what Ava meant to me, that she wasn't just a child, she was the miracle I had prayed for, the piece of me I thought I'd never have. Then the social worker testified about the supervised visit where Ava calmed in my arms. She said, "In my professional opinion, this child recognizes her genetic mother and responds positively to her." It felt like a lifeline being thrown to me in the middle of a storm. Hannah's lawyer countered with emotional appeals, talking about maternal bonding and psychological harm. But then Hannah herself took the stand, and it was her undoing. At first, she played the victim, crying about how she couldn't bear to lose the baby she carried. But under cross-examination, cracks appeared. My lawyer asked her directly, "Did you or did you not agree, in writing, to act as a surrogate?" She hesitated, tried to deflect, then finally admitted, "Yes, but I didn't know it would feel like this." The courtroom buzzed. The judge's face hardened. That single sentence destroyed the narrative she had built. She wasn't a mother fighting for her child, she was a sister who had broken a promise. But then she went further. In a moment of anger, she turned to me, her voice sharp, and said, "Even if you win, Ava will always see me as her real mother. You can't erase me." That was the moment the judge stopped her. He banged his gavel and ordered silence. And in that silence, I saw it, the shift. For the first time, the weight was in my favor. Still, the decision wasn't immediate. The judge announced he would deliver his ruling the following week. One more week of limbo. One more week of waking up without my daughter. But deep down, I felt it. Hannah had overplayed her hand. The week leading up to the ruling felt like torture. Every hour stretched out like a year. I kept imagining both outcomes over and over. One moment, I saw myself holding Ava in her nursery, rocking her to sleep in the chair Mark and I had picked out together. The next, I saw Hannah walking away from the courthouse with Ava in her arms while I collapsed on the steps, empty forever. Mark tried to keep me sane, but I could see the same fear in his eyes. We barely slept. We lived off takeout and coffee, our lives on pause. Friends stopped asking how we were doing because they could see the answer written on our faces: broken, exhausted, desperate. The day of the ruling, the courtroom was packed. Reporters had caught wind of the case by now, though the judge had ordered limited coverage. Still, whispers buzzed through the halls like static electricity. People love scandals, especially when they're family tragedies. Hannah came in wearing white, holding Ava against her chest as if she were about to christen her. My parents followed closely, my mom glaring at me like I was an intruder. I felt a lump rise in my throat, but I swallowed it down. I couldn't cry now. Not yet. The judge read his ruling slowly, carefully. He acknowledged Hannah's sacrifice, the emotional complexity of surrogacy, the genuine bond she felt. For a terrifying moment, I thought he was about to side with her. My heart pounded so loudly I couldn't hear anything else. Then he shifted. He cited the contract, the medical proof, the testimony from the social worker. He emphasized that while emotions are real, legal agreements exist for a reason. And then, in the clearest voice I had ever heard, he said, "Custody of the minor child, Ava, is hereby granted to her biological parents, my name, and Mark, last name." I broke. My knees buckled, and Mark caught me before I hit the floor. Tears blurred everything around me, but I didn't care. After months of hell, my daughter was finally coming home. But the victory wasn't sweet. The judge ordered a transition period. Hannah had to surrender Ava within 2 weeks to avoid shocking the baby. 2 weeks of supervised handoffs, 2 weeks of watching my sister cling to a child that was never hers while I waited on the sidelines. Every time she kissed Ava's head, every time Ava reached for her, it stabbed me in the chest. The day she finally handed Ava over, Hannah didn't let go at first. She held on so tightly that the social worker had to gently pry Ava from her arms. Hannah collapsed to the floor, sobbing, screaming that I was stealing her baby. My parents rushed to her, glaring at me as if I were the villain. I walked out with Ava in my arms, but the sound of Hannah's screams followed me all the way to the car. At home, I laid Ava in her crib for the first time. The nursery no longer felt empty, it felt alive. She gripped my finger with her tiny hand, and for the first time I believed she was really mine. But beneath the joy was something heavier. Because the truth is, my family is gone. Hannah refuses to speak to me. My mom says she lost one daughter to keep another. My dad barely answers my calls. Holidays will never be the same again. In order to gain Ava, I lost almost everyone else. Sometimes, late at night when Ava cries and I'm rocking her in the dark, I think about Hannah. I wonder if she's awake too, staring at an empty crib, hating me. I wonder if Ava will one day hear the story and feel torn between us. I won in court, but I don't feel like I won in life. I got my daughter, yes, but I lost my sister, my parents, and the family I thought I could trust. And I can't stop asking myself, was this the price of becoming a mother, or was this the start of a wound Ava will carry with her forever?
Follow me for more stories.